Hey there, everyone. I'm back with another movie review for you all today. And as always, with all my other videos that involve movies, there are some minor spoilers ahead for the plot of today's film, which I will be reviewing. Before we get into it, I'm just going to quickly mention that if you are not already a follower on my Instagram page, that's at your_geekygf. And I've got a lot of fashion unboxings, reviews, try on hauls, tips and tricks for your wardrobes. And I've also got typed up movie reviews on there as well. So make sure you go check all that out if anything of that interests you. And then also, if you're not already a subscriber and you like all the things that I'm doing here on the channel, make sure you give me a subscribe and a like so I can keep making these videos and hopefully get some newer content and some newer information out to you very soon. So without further ado, let's get into today's movie that we are reviewing. I am reviewing today The Hitman's Bodyguard, starring Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson, and Salma Hayek is also in this film. And this was not my choice to watch. My husband said he really wanted to watch it due to the sequel coming out. This movie came out a couple of years ago, maybe even 3 or 4. I'm not 100% sure when the movie was released, but there is a sequel coming out this summer, The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard. So he had wanted to watch the film, and so he put it on and ended up falling asleep. So that kind of tells you his perspective. So I watched this movie. I did watch it all the way to the end. So this was not my first choice for a film. Now, I will also say that going into watching this, I had heard that this movie was funny, but I had heard mixed reviews. Like, I had heard it was funny, but it just kind of in. I'd heard, oh my gosh, it was so funny. I can't wait for the second one. So I've kind of heard mixed reviews from family and friends and different people who've seen this film. So I was not really sure what to expect. So let's just get right into the plot summary and some scenes from the film. So, like I said, we've got Ryan Reynolds, Samuel Jackson, and Salma Hayek as your 3 stars in this film. Ryan Reynolds does play a bodyguard, and Samuel L. Jackson plays a hitman who, in the beginning of the film, is serving time for his various murders. And then Ryan Reynolds is being a bodyguard to somebody else, and then due to an incident that happens, kind of gets demoted and has to he was representing like really high-end clients and kind of gets demoted and now has less high-end clients, I guess we could say. For example, he ends up being a bodyguard to Samuel L. Jackson, who is being transported via like a guarded prison transport. So they're transporting him from one prison to another so he can go and be a witness on the stand against the Russian president. So that's kind of the synopsis, and Ryan Reynolds ends up being recruited to be the hitman's bodyguard, literally. Salma Hayek plays Samuel Jackson's wife, and that scene down there in the bottom left picture kind of shows, he tells the story of how they meet, which kind of gives you a good intro into the upcoming sequel of the film. And what ensues is just a mirage of, or a myriad of various action sequences with Ryan Reynolds being Samuel L. Jackson's bodyguard. And that's essentially the whole film. They're trying to get Samuel L. Jackson to be a witness, and he's sort of kind of in witness protection, but yet at the same time, he's like this convicted felon who's still serving his prison sentence. And there's a whole lot of stuff that goes down over the course of the film. The film is, I want to say, over 2 hours, and the part of with him being the witness happens with like 30 minutes left. So the majority of the film is just these 2 guys trying to get there and people shooting at them and attempting to kill them, blow them up all along the way. So let's talk about the pros and cons. So Ryan Reynolds by far was the funniest person in the film for me. I laughed the most at the lines that he had. He was the cleanest actor in the film, and only When he was using foul language, that's what, his was funny. It wasn't obscene or upset, like incessant. So Ryan Reynolds' role in the film was the funniest to me. His one-liners and some of the things that happened to him were the parts that I thought were funny. It gives a good introduction, like I said, to Salma Hayek and Samuel Jackson's relationship, which leads into the sequel. And then I also thought that the ending was good. I thought it wrapped everything up nicely, opened it up for the sequel. But if there wasn't going to be a sequel, like I feel like viewers would have still been happy with how the film ended, and like everybody was kind of where they were supposed to be and with who they were supposed to be. And so regardless of the sequel, I think the movie, it wasn't like there was a huge cliffhanger and we were like, oh, there really needs to be a sequel. This movie was fine without a sequel, in my opinion. Now, the cons. I was confused while watching this movie. I was confused if it was supposed to be a comedy set in an action film, or if it was an action film that just had comedic parts. Like, I was confused which one, because there were parts where I thought it was trying to be funny, and then there's like action going on around it. And then vice versa. Like, I thought it was supposed to be an action movie, but then there would be this line of comedy. So I don't know if this was an action movie that when people went, like they marketed it as an action movie, and then when people went to the theaters, people were like, oh my gosh, it's so funny, and so it ended up being a comedy, or if it was marketed as a comedy, this is the funniest movie in America, whatever, and then it just has action going on in the background. I'm really not sure which one, because it was kind of like both were prevalent, like there was both action and comedy, but neither one was the front runner. Like, I cannot say it was an action movie that was funny, or I can't say it was a comedy movie that's set in an action film. So it was kind of confusing. I personally did not find it very funny. There were a few lines, like I said, that I had a chuckle or a laugh, but overall, it felt like an action movie to me. It felt like an action movie that had a couple funny parts. I did not find it funny enough to stand alone as a comedy. So I guess that, by the end of the film, I kind of had come to that realization about which genre it was supposed to be, because it didn't stand alone as a comedy for me. Something like Ride Along or something like that, that's, Kevin Hart's standout comedy. I didn't get that vibe from this film. The language, I've been talking a lot about language in the past few movie reviews that I've done, because I have been watching a lot of rated R movies lately. And if you are somebody who is offended by obscene or profane language, then this movie is probably one you're not going to want to enjoy, or that you're not going to enjoy. You're not going to want to kind of take part in viewing. Samuel L. Jackson, of course, is notorious for foul language, and Salma Hayek uses it the most in this film. She's not in the film very much, and she uses very profane language almost the entire time that she's on screen. Now, I've said in multiple reviews, I am not, have a movie that has a lot of foul language is not necessarily a bad movie in my eyes. The Breakfast Club has a lot of foul language. The Heat has a lot of foul language. And those are movies that I genuinely enjoy and find funny. But this one, it just fell flat for me. And I just like to let people know ahead of time that this movie does have a lot of foul language. So if you're somebody who doesn't want your kids to watch it, things like that. If you're watching this video and you're looking for family movies or movies that are appropriate for your family to watch, this one's not. This one is adults only if you don't use that kind of language in your home. So just keep that in mind. And then the last con was that it wasn't very believable. Like, for example, there's one part when Ryan Reynolds goes through a windshield because they cut the airbags out of a car that they are driving, and he like rolls out of it, stands up, and is like, he's mad, but he's okay. And in real life, that would not actually happen. I understand stuff like that adds to the comedy, but if you're an action, there were other scenes too, like Samuel L. Jackson is getting shot at through the front and back windshields and both sides. He's getting practically run off the road, and he suffers no injuries. And so it's like stuff. It's hard for me to watch movies like this and not be cynical about their approach, because, especially if I'm not enjoying the movie, I'm like overcritical about, like, okay, that wouldn't actually happen. They did kind of fix that in the end when Ryan Reynolds does take a bullet in the end. That was very believable. But leading up until that point, everything that had happened in the film, I was like, I don't know if this is believable. And it's not making a good case for this being an action movie. Now, I understand action movies in cinema are ridiculous and over the top, but I just didn't. There were some scenes that I was like, at least have the actor limp or something to make it seem like he was sort of injured, or have a scratch or something. It wasn't very believable to me. Overall, I'm giving Hitman's Bodyguard a D. I just did not like this movie. I will not be seeing the sequel. Like I said, I was confused when watching it if I was watching an action movie or a comedy. I feel like it was an action movie that had some funny parts, and I feel like I view that the opposite. And I didn't, even the funny parts that it did have or that people thought were funny, they just fell flat for me, and I did not enjoy this movie. I watched it, and I was watching it all the way to the end, and there were parts when I was like, I just want this movie to be over. And I don't think that about a lot of movies. So unfortunately, I do give this movie like one of my lowest scores that I've ever given a movie, but I have no interest to see the sequel. And I love a lot of movies that Ryan Reynolds is in. Like, I love The Proposal. We watched My Best Friend, or Best Friends, or something like that not too long ago. There was a romantic comedy with Ryan Reynolds, and I think he's so much funnier in that role. And like Deadpool, I did not like at all. I would give it like a D or an F as well, because I did not like that. So anything that's like sort of an action that has Ryan Reynolds, I'm always sort of skeptical, because I just feel like I'm gonna get a Deadpool vibe. And that's essentially, this one was a bit better than Deadpool, but again, I'm just one person. This is just my opinion. If you feel differently about this film, let me know respectfully in the comments, and tell me why you liked it or what parts you felt were funny. And just let me know, and we can have a discussion. If there's anything else you want me to watch, drop that down there in the comments as well. And make sure, like I said in the beginning, that you subscribe. This is my review on The Hitman's Bodyguard, and I hope that you guys take it with a grain of salt. And if you like this movie, don't let me stop you from watching it. It just was not one of my favorites. So for now, that's it, and I'll see you guys in the next video.